Good afternoon, everyone. It's Sebastian Castillo here, and take a look around. Finally found a quiet street to make a quick video on, and eventually I was gonna have to tell you guys. So I am here now in Barranquilla, Colombia, which is, I believe, the fourth largest city in the country, located on the Caribbean coast. And I've been here for almost a week now, and got a couple of things to go over. So firstly, guys, don't ever underestimate how grueling traveling to a new place is going to be. For me, it was already enough of a hassle to move out of my place in Cancun, sell a bunch of my things, and then arrange the flight, the accommodation, and find someone to adopt my cat over there. So it's been a really hectic last 2 or 3 weeks for me. And also, actually, well, before we move on, wherever you're gonna go, I always recommend you to spend a little bit more money to make things easy on yourself. And what I mean is, don't always go for the cheapest accommodation, transportation. If you can afford it, pay for a taxi so that you don't have to walk everywhere. You have to conserve your energy. Your body has to get used to a new environment, new food, and you have to give yourself some time to acclimatize and rest. On the other hand, there is some merit to jumping right in and walking around, exploring, but there's a balance, right? Because you don't want to burn yourself out. That's exactly what I've kind of done this week. I figured I will open up my calendar so I can take a whole bunch of sales calls and make up for all the money that I spent on the flight and on accommodation and everything. And it kind of, it's kind of shitty. I am now on 2 offers, and this whole week I've closed 1 deposit and 1 paid in full, which is good. But when you compare it to the total amount of hours I was putting in with all these calls, it is not that good. So, I mean, I got here last week on Saturday, and I got right to work on Sunday morning. And on top of that, and this is why I say you should spend a little bit more money on accommodation, because that very morning, literally about a half hour before my first call, the power went out. So don't cheap out on this kind of stuff. You don't have to get something super luxurious, but definitely do not cheap out, especially if you are making some kind of money through sales or whatever, and you need to be on the internet. You need power. And then what happened? The internet went out again like 2 days later. What else? It's just kind of been one thing after another here. I can't say I really like the city, but I'm not going to say I hate it. I'm still kind of getting used to it, and to be honest, I barely even had any time to go out and explore because I lowered my calendar up. And that's another thing. You have to know when to cut your losses. So what's funny is, I started on my very first offer back in January for weight loss coaching, and it was going pretty well up until maybe the beginning of August. And then we brought on what we call a new partner to get leads from, and overnight things just kind of shifted in a bad direction, because earlier a lot of our leads, not all of them, but quite a few, had money, and they recognized the importance of investing in their health and getting fit and losing weight and whatever it is. Now we're talking to a lot of, not saying these are bad people or anything, but just the demographics do not kind of line up with what we're looking for, what I'm looking for. So I was used to selling packages paid in full for $1,600, $1,800, $2,500 or more. Now it's very scarce. Now we've changed the pricing model to like 1,200, and we're mostly talking to like single moms or older women who are living paycheck to paycheck, and they don't even have 500 bucks to their name, or at least that's what they've told me so many times now. So at this point, I have to decide if I want to continue on and kind of adapt and play more of a volume game, or just cut my losses and say, screw this. I know I have the skill set necessary to close bigger deals and get a bigger commission. Because, you know, your time is valuable. If you're just starting out and if you're in a bad place financially, then take whatever you can get, fine. You know, this gig that I'm on right now would be great for someone who's just starting out, who has a totally open calendar, who can take 8 to 10 sales calls a day. And if they only close 1 or 2 and they make, you know, cool 120 or 240 in commission, then awesome. More power to you. But it's when you are at a certain level and then you come down a notch, like where I was, where I'm selling packages and I'm making $500 in commission or more in one go, then it just doesn't make any sense for me to waste my time doing something where I'm making way less, you know, and having to spend even more time playing a guessing game, hoping that they're going to have enough money to pay in full or even pay on the payment plan. Again, I'm not making character judgments here, but when we're talking about business, this is what it is, right? So that's why I decided to hop on another offer, which is in a totally different niche and is more B2B. And that has brought on its own challenges. But I can see myself going way further with that, especially once I get more used to talking to these kinds of people. Mostly it's realtors. So far, I'm not a big fan. So far, most of them are kind of assholes. They're impatient, they're always on the go. And on top of that, with lead generation, which is what I'm selling, a lot of them have been burned in the past, so they are almost hostile when they're talking to me on their phone. They're thinking that I'm just a shyster and I'm trying to sell a system that is going to charge them a whole bunch of money up front and then just give them a bunch of shit leads and run away with their money and go off to Colombia, go off to Mexico, which is not the case at all, right? We actually do deliver a pretty damn good system with a very, very fair pricing model. But maybe I'll talk more about the work stuff later. Right now, I'm here, and as many of you know, it's been on my mind for a long time to come to this country and actually see it for myself and experience it. And I'm very straightforward, and I keep it real with you guys. One of the biggest motivators was just relationships. A lot of guys say that women in Colombia are not only pretty good looking on average, but very open and very friendly. And I have to say, just in the last couple of days I've been here, I think they're right. Just going into the mall, I was kind of blown away by the standard level of beauty. Of course, you see women out there who are not that great, but there are quite a few who I thought, holy crap, she's working in a clothing store, but she's so good looking, right? Or she's working at an ice cream stand and she's easily, if she was back in the US or back in Canada, you know, she'd have a rich boyfriend or something like that. Not necessarily, but I think you guys understand what I'm saying. The standards are different here. So I'm gonna really give this a go. I have already gone out on some dates. I have met one girl in particular who's a pretty nice person and who seems very genuine. But with all my experience and the things I've read, I don't want to let myself get too attached too quickly and get my hopes up. And so, yeah, I guess the only last thing to touch on here is safety. As you can see, there's pretty much no one out here, just in this park. It is a Friday afternoon, and it seems pretty safe. I mean, things can happen at any time, pretty much anywhere, but generally I don't feel like I'm in danger. recording this video on my iPhone here in the middle of the park, I don't think anyone's gonna pull up and rob me, you know? In fact, in the area that I'm staying in, it is kind of the nicer part of the town, and I see a lot of people pulling out their phones or wearing gold watches or, you know, wearing brand names. So it depends on what area you're going through as well. You have to be street smart about this, and obviously not flash any of your stuff and not shove it in people's faces. And on top of all that, the fact that I speak Spanish pretty damn well and I understand everything makes it a million times easier to navigate. So that's pretty much it, guys. I'm gonna go to the mall now to do my thing, relax a little bit. Maybe I'll even go on a date tonight, who knows? And I do have to finalize my accommodation, which I'm excited to show you guys. I looked at one place today, super nice, very conveniently located, modern, safe. And I was looking at it, and it's pretty pricey compared to what I have paid in the past. Like, when I'm looking at accommodation, I've been kind of spoiled, right? Because in the house I was living in Mexico, it was like $250 a month for the rent and the maintenance. I had to pay internet and water and electricity in addition to that, but usually that would only come out to an extra $30 a month. So $280 a month to live in a house in a nice area in a gated community. There's not too much else I can really compare to that. So this place I was looking at here, I think it's going for around $650 US. But then I put things into perspective. I was thinking, yeah, the same kind of place that's new, that has a lobby, that has a gym in it's basically like a hotel, except it has a kitchen in it. The same kind of place would probably be going for like $2,000 easily in downtown Vancouver, from where I'm from in Canada, or any other major Western city. So on the one hand, it might be relatively expensive here in Colombia, since I think the average salary here is something like $300 to $400 a month. We'll talk about that another time. But then compared to back home, it's a freaking steal, right? Right in the heart of downtown, all these services, everything's included too, right? They have internet, they have air conditioning. So probably gonna just go for that, because there comes a point where you have to stop playing life on defense and just trying to scrounge and save every penny and think, okay, you know what? It's gonna be a little bit more expensive to rent this place, but it's an investment in myself. It feels good to wake up in a nice, clean place, high up with a good view, with all the amenities you need, close to decent restaurants and a gym. And then on top of that, you know, if you want to bring company over, it just smoothens everything, right? Now, I will say, last thing, I mentioned I already hung out with one girl in particular, and she seems like a really good person. I'll tell you why. Because firstly, she came to pick me up at the airport. That's never ever happened in my life. I mean, I've had family come and get me and a couple of friends, but never a girl, especially a girl I just met online. And on top of that, you know, the place I'm staying in right now is nothing, it's kind of shitty. Like I said, the power went out. It's just a room, and it's got a washroom, and that's it. But she saw it, and she accompanied me there. She went inside, and you know, a lot of other girls who are kind of like spoiled princesses, right then and there, they probably would have started getting uncomfortable, thinking, oh, this guy's poor, I don't want to hang out with him anymore. But she didn't. She still wanted to see me and hang out with me. So I know some of you might be thinking, oh, well, on the one hand, she's probably just taking her time, you know, waiting for you to spend more money on her or whatever. That's a very jaded way to look at it, but I do understand where that's coming from. But on the other hand, there's no reason to think that, you know, maybe she genuinely likes me, right? You know, even if I don't live in a freaking palace right now, even if I don't have a car or anything, you know? And that's the beautiful thing about coming to a different country, coming to a different city, and meeting different people, right? It changes your perspective. Whereas, again, I'm not going to say all women are like this, but in Canada and the US and the UK, if you meet a girl and you take her back to your place and it's a dump, not because it's disorganized or it's dirty or anything, but it's just, it's old and it's not aesthetically pleasing. It's not very modern. The truth is, a lot of girls will just switch up on you immediately like that, and they won't want to see you again. And then you're left scratching your head thinking, whoa, what did I do wrong? Is there something wrong with me? No, she's just a bitch. She's just a fucking useless piece of shit. That's what a lot of them are like. I don't want to sound like an asshole. I don't want to sound jaded. That is why I moved, right? People will say, oh, well, if you complain so much, why don't you leave? Yeah, that's why I left. That's why I'm here. So I'm going to be on the ground. I'm going to be reporting on all of this, guys. And I'm really looking forward to it. It's a new adventure. Plan is to stay here at least a couple of months and then visit a couple of other cities in the country like Cali, Medellin, definitely Cartagena and Santa Marta. Yeah, what else? Even the smaller ones, Manizales, Pereira, Monteria, all these places. Colombia is definitely a lot smaller than Mexico, so it's easier to get around. So yeah, wish me luck, guys, and I will be in touch with you shortly. Take care.